I played a lot of games in 2025. Some of these games are praised as masterpieces, some won awards, and some people will probably get mad at me for hating them. I don't care about hype, nostalgia, or game journalist review scores, only about how fun a game actually is to play. This video is a full breakdown of basically every game I touched this year, from the ones I abandoned to my personal top 10, so let's start with the games I couldn't stand and didn't finish. Castlevania Mirror of Fate HD is from the creators of one of the best Metroidvanias, that being Metroid Dread. This one is ass. I love Resident Evil games. Requiem is my first pre-order in fact, but I couldn't make it for the terrible controls. A lot of people may agree with me on 0 and 1, but I'm sure lots of you are gonna hate me for saying this about 4, but it's just terrible. Keep in mind I play shooters with mouse and keyboard, so maybe I had to try them with the gamepad, but at this point I'd much rather wait for the remakes that are gonna come out eventually, or just replay Resident Evil 4 Remake and get all the achievements instead. Back in the day when I didn't have the money, I really wanted to play Braid and The Witness, but now that I have the money, I really wish I never did. I always thought I was a puzzle guy. I love puzzles in different games like Resident Evil, Zelda and many others, but these two games made by the same creator simply made me want to quit. I never felt so angry and frustrated solving puzzles in video games. I've only played like a couple of hours of it, and all the levels and boss fights were terrible. Controls feel so clunky and gameplay is so boring. I was really hyped since a lot of people talk very well about this game, and I got really disappointed really fast. What the fuck is this piece of shit game? For a run and gun goose game, it's nothing special. I didn't have much fun with it. Same goes for Tiny Thor. It's a boring 2D platformer, and I'm sad because the pixel art is really nice. This was better than any other game previously mentioned, but I still didn't really enjoy it. It really felt like a cheap Doom copy, so I simply quit and moved to Doom 2. I don't get it. I love the art style, I love the mechanics, I love the music, and the boss fights are amazing, but I really don't like playing the levels. I feel like I'm the only one here with this opinion. If this game was only boss fights like Cuphead, I would adore it, but unfortunately it's not. From now on, I completed all the games, so let's start with the worst one. This game is trash. Clunky movement and enemy lock, awful areas and bad enemy placement, horrendous level design. You play through a terrible and frustrating area again and again, only to encounter a trash, easy peasy boss. Did almost all the bosses on the first try, except for the last one and maybe 2 others. 3 bosses in the whole game are mid at best. I don't care about the lore, like in any other Souls game. I don't care about the build variety. One of the 2 good things about the game for RPG fans, I am not. The only good thing for me is that some areas have a good ambience and atmosphere, like Majula. Dark Souls 2 is by far the worst game I've ever finished, and I only played it to complete all the From Software Soulsborne games. Side note, I didn't play the DLCs. This game is ass. I love challenging 2D platformers with a lot of cool things to collect in the levels like Celeste and Donkey Kong series, but this game is bad. Controls feel clunky and imprecise, especially the hook, which is the main mechanic of the game by the way. It feels bad to have limited directions, levels are boring and slow, the bosses are also bad. I truly wanted to love this game, but I'm just disappointed. I played this game with 2 friends and it was still bad as fuck. I really don't understand how this game is praised as much as it is, but it has the most boring and repetitive gameplay ever. I love Detroit Become Human, so I thought I'd like this game as well, but it's boring and the gameplay is really clunky. The story was engaging enough for me to continue playing it, but I didn't really like that one as well, and the overall game could have been shorter. This game really disappointed me. I was so hyped since the very first announcement, and finally got to play it since it was only like €3. It's not bad, but it's very dragged out. There are 2 main elements in this game. Puzzles that I really enjoyed, and terrible combat. Is the worst part of the game because it's too simple and there's too much of it, so it's not fun. The game is 8 hours long, but holy shit it felt like 20. Instead of fighting and yapping, there should have been more minigames. It's not a bad game, but it's not a good Resident Evil. It takes away the exploration since it's more linear, and it has much more shooting, which just feels repetitive. Also the AI companion sucks, but the final boss is very cool. However, the main problem I had with this game were the controls. They are so clunky and frustrating in certain situations, but still better than the original Resident Evil 4. I ended up liking Skyrim more than expected, mostly thanks to its atmosphere and music. Exploration was fun until you start discovering the same type of areas over and over again. The UI though is atrocious, and the combat is another weak point. There's no sense of impact when hitting enemies, and again, it's just about numbers. No skill, no satisfying feedback. I finished the main quest at level 19 with 27 hours of playtime. I know it's not a lot for this game, but trust me, it's a lot for me. Not the worst, but one of the weakest Metroidvanias I've finished. Clunky movement and some bad game design choices. Like, why would I instantly die after falling onto spines accidentally because of bad obstacle hitbox or enemy? Or why would they make the roots path an item instead of an actual ability? Anyway. Now we have reached the okay part of the video, which means these games are fine. They're not the best and they don't pretend to be so, but they're still fun to play. Lumberjack for destructions, Cat Quest for its cats, Gato Roboto for having a cat in a Metroidvania, and Guacamelee 2 for its good parkour in a colorful, again, Metroidvania. I love Metroidvania, so you're gonna see more of them in the video. And a game about digging a hole was an hour of pure addiction. Then, just a bit better. The only improvement over the original is the addition of checkpoints to restart missions, since it's a very hard game. I had to replay almost every mission multiple times. When I was playing the original, I dropped it because it was way too annoying having to start from the hospital or the police station after failing a mission. Overall, I had fun, but the torchlight system is terrible and the mouse and keyboard controls are clunky. Characters and story are good, but some parts of the game felt dragged out, even for a 10-hour game, and the final boss was also disappointing. I want to have this game higher in the list, but the level design is just too confusing. In fact, I had to check out walkthroughs for most of the levels, unfortunately. Severed still was an adrenaline-filled experience, but after finishing the main story, I didn't feel like playing more of it. It was fun until it lasted, and it's a 3-hour campaign. I was expecting something like a short hike, which it kinda is, but the huge amount of dialogues ruins it in my opinion, but getting all the achievements was still a good time. I like the idea of being a huge mech fighting other mechs, but I really don't like the builds that totally make sense for a game like this. I guess it's just not for me really. I know I'm going to receive death threats in the comments for giving this game a 6 out of 10, but let me explain. As I said for Dark Souls 2, I don't like RPGs. That means I don't like to deal with the build varieties and numbers. I also don't like the style of narration of Souls games. I enjoy the combat system and the exploration, but there are still too many bosses and areas that are bad or bullshit in my opinion. Prime is a chill game with beautiful art style, soundtrack and atmosphere. Nice puzzles too, but it's held back by its slow traversal. Both walking and climbing are tedious. Not so fun fact, this game burned my GPU back in 2020, so I had to buy an RX 5080 XT for 500 euros. I'm still recovering mentally from that purchase.
Panichkin, do you speak?
Deltarune Chapter 3 felt a bit boring. I like the concept, but 1 and 2 are much better. The only thing I really like is 10 as a character and the final boss fight, but I'm disappointed especially for the music. Chapter 4 is more interesting and intriguing than Chapter 3. The fights are much harder and very cool, with nice new mechanics added, but it's nothing really outstanding for me, and the Uncharted 2 gameplay wasn't really a great addition in my opinion. The final boss ruined this otherwise good DLC. World design is very good, a huge upgrade from the base game since it's smaller and compact. It doesn't feel repetitive when exploring, and there was only one area I hated, but the in-game map is a mess. They should have put another layer at least. Lovely Planet is one of the hardest games I played this year. It's a 3D platform shooter, but there is no aim point, and it was cool until the last world. The last 2 worlds especially require crazy reflexes, because most of the levels are simply unfair. It took me 4 hours to finish the game, meanwhile, for its sequel it took me only 1, because it's like 100 times easier. I'm still confused on why it's so simple compared to the first one. Now the good games with a 7 out of 10. Bully could have been my favorite Rockstar game if it wasn't technically outdated, because it actually has fun gameplay. Lessons and NPC quests are minigames, the missions are short but impactful, story and characters are great, and the combat is fine. I love the style and atmosphere of the game, which reminded me a lot of Psychonauts when playing it. I only wish there were better checkpoints and better optimization, but unfortunately, Rockstar doesn't seem to care at all after the massive GTA 5 success. They were planning a sequel, and I'm afraid it's never gonna happen. But this game deserves a remake, or at least a good remaster that fixes all the issues. Steel Assault is a run and gun with a whip and grappling hook, which is definitely a creative take on the genre, and they did a great job. It's short with a lot of variety, so it never gets even a little bit boring. And bosses are great and tough, especially the last one. Mago is a hidden gem and every 2D platformer fan of the difficult ones should play it. It has issues, but it's still worth it. What makes this game a very hard 2D platformer is that Mago is very big on the screen, same for the enemies, and the platforms you have to jump on are very tight. What adds to the difficulty is the fact Mago is right in the middle, so it's very hard to see what is in front of you. It took me 10 hours to beat the base game without upgrading the life bar and the wand, and 13 more to get all the achievements. Not the classic Resident Evil, but still a good game. The story is engaging, the gunplay is good, and overall it's more action focused. The only downsides to this game are the dodge, worst dodge in gaming by far, and the 3D map, which sucks. Boss fights are okay, and the raid mode could have been fun if it wasn't a grind. Fear Rising is one of the games I played the most in 2025. I was surprised how intuitive and straightforward this game was for a survival, which I usually don't like for their overcomplicated menus and mechanics and other bullshit you have to search on the wikis. The main reason I played this game was because I wanted to play something with my friends that has an end. Once we defeated all the 50-something bosses across the map, we were done and satisfied. Some fights are fair, others very unbalanced. The weapons and vampire abilities are really cool, but the game allows you only to use a few spells out of dozens available. Still probably my favorite survival game. Elden Ring is an overglazed and overrated game. Like every other Soulsborne game, I don't care about the story and lore, so I'm only judging based on the gameplay. The open world is boring and very repetitive with slow traversal. To avoid recycling the bosses, they could have made a smaller map like they did for the DLC. The combat and bosses are the things I enjoy the most in these games. Some of them were bullshit, but I never struggled much except for Malenia, which is actually hard and very cool. I hope From Software never creates an open world game again. To me, this one is not a very big improvement over the first game. I still enjoyed and 100%ed the map in 14 hours, but I was kinda expecting more in terms of gameplay and less in terms of bugs. I'm so happy I finally finished Half-Life. Years ago, I dropped the original thinking it was too dated and unintuitive. This one looks great, but some parts are still unintuitive. The Xen area feels so dragged out though, and has a significant downgrade in combat. Before Xen, there were much cooler fights. I love Metroidvanias and 3D platformers, and this is a very well-made combination with a beautiful N64 style. But this game has a massive problem in my opinion, and that is the map. It got me running in circles so many times. And good thing the game is short, I finished it in 5.5 hours. If I were able to see the direction I'm facing and the whole map, this game could have been so much better and could have had a much higher score. Blasphemous 2 is a huge improvement over the first game. Smooth movement, good level design, I liked all the weapons, good bosses too. Still not a fan of perks distributed between different types of items. Finding angels, even with a guide, is a pain in the ass, which I didn't do, but really wanted to. There should have been a late game map like in Hollow Knight for the grubs. But for both games and movies, most of the time I don't recommend it if it's lower than a 7.5 out of 10. Monster Hunter Wilds is my first Monster Hunter game, and I never thought I would like it that much, mainly being an RPG. Weapons and monsters are very cool, and the combat feels very smooth. But what ruins the flow is when you try to select something from the equip wheel and it doesn't work the first time. Also, a very annoying thing about combat is when you heal and right after you do that, your felon companion sends you healing. Like, come on. Traversal is very cool and engaging. You select where you want to go, and while riding the Sacred, you can collect resources with a hook. What I don't like much about the game is the amount of statistics. I'm not an RPG person, so that's just a me thing. But what truly ruins the experience is the awful UI and menus. It's a huge mess. I finished the low and high rank and completed all the secondary missions in about 40 hours. I tried to pick it up again to try the new monsters added with the updates and realized I forgot how to play it, so yeah, that's unfortunate. The story is beautiful, the atmosphere is so well done, the dialogues are so cool with the original voice acting being perfect, and the puzzles are fun. I also got all the achievements for this one. It's a short game, more similar to a movie, but it's still a great experience I highly recommend. This game was one of the first I played on my computer. I remembered it being great, and it still holds up well. It feels clunky at times, but the gameplay is still excellent, and the atmosphere is amazing. Even for a 2014 game, it looks stunning, especially with my new OLED monitor. One of the best FPS campaigns to date, and it's easily the best of the series. Yes, you already knew it was my favorite of the series, and yes, I still don't like the RPG aspect and the storytelling, but it's a very good game with some great bosses, soundtrack, atmosphere, and I love the fighting and the different movesets for each weapon. Compared to the first one, the exploration is much more straightforward, but I still liked it a lot with all the Metroidvania style shortcuts. It's one area after another like a corridor, except for the cathedral, which is the part of the three areas I didn't enjoy much. Road of Sacrifices and Pharaoh Keep. All three of them felt too slow and boring, especially compared to the rest of the game, and the equally great DLCs. Evil West is a true underrated gem. Gameplay is pure fun. Some enemies are annoying, and the optimization is trash, unfortunately, but it's still a must-play for every action game enthusiast. I first played It Takes Two, so I expected it not being as great, but I was wrong. While not being on the same level, it's still amazing, with a lot of gameplay variety and a better story. The ending is mind-blowing. Mika and the Witch's Mountain is Studio Ghibli's Kiki's delivery service made into a video game. One of the best cozy games and collectathons out there. Great art style and atmosphere, lovely music, and charming characters. Even the dungeon puzzles were nice. I had so much fun getting all the achievements for this one as well. And now here's my top 10 games I played in 2025. Expedition won almost everything at the Game Awards, but not here. As the biggest turn-based combat hater out there, I was impressed. Everything is so damn good, the story, the characters, the music, the art style, and the combat too. It's basically turn-based Sekiro. The reason it's not higher in the list is because of the RPG elements. I just hate the amount of perks and pictos. Reading all that in a video game? Hell no. But still managed to finish the game without checking anything online. It's a game I will forever remember and love, especially for its music. I enjoyed this game a lot. It was so cool to start the game with all the abilities gained in the previous title and having more and even cooler upgrades. Movement feels great, the level design is improved, and I love the exploration here. Sometimes the fighting doesn't feel precise, but it's still a great action game. The story is good, but it's not beating Fallen Order. This is easily the best Ubisoft game. So much so, it's one of the best Metroidvanias out there, with great exploration, smooth movements, satisfying combat, and beautiful platforming challenges. The story and characters are surprisingly good, and going for all the achievements feels rewarding rather than tedious. While boss fights are a bit easy and the game can be buggy at times, it's still an excellent experience. The DLC though is mid as fuck. The game is so good I had to get all the achievements. Took me about 82 hours and 3 playthroughs, and I loved every single moment. At its core, the game is basically a boss rush, and that's why it clicked with me. It's impressive how the game manages to make over 80 boss fights feel cinematic and memorable. The combat is fantastic, with tons of variety. Transformations, spells, and upgrades that feel powerful and incredibly satisfying to use. That said, the game isn't flawless. Some sections involve too much walking, and while most areas and bosses are great, a few parts feel dragged. Also, I didn't get into the story of the game. Even with those issues, it's easily one of the best action games ever made. I'm honestly surprised it didn't win Game of the Year at the Game Awards, though I still need to play Astrobot, so we'll see. One of the best combat systems ever created in a video game. I like the way the story is told. I also love how the areas are structured, which are cool to explore and filled with secrets. And I also enjoyed most of the bosses. What I didn't like is that on the first run, to explore everything properly, you have to defeat all the enemies first. And the easiest way to do this is through stealth. And I hate that. Stealth is boring, and it's also the reason why I didn't really enjoy the game at first. New Game Plus was a much better experience though, since you can just run through the areas and go straight to the bosses. I'm not a fan of prosthetics. There are too many useless upgrades, and they're not very practical since they also have limited uses. It would have been much better if there were fewer prosthetics and were more useful without the limitations. I hate the headless variants. Very annoying enemies, not mandatory fortunately. The 4-monkey boss fight can even be called as such. The Divine Dragon is a huge letdown. It looks cool, but it's a very easy gimmick fight. Last but not least, since I loved this game at the end, I wanted to get all the achievements, but the process wasn't much fun. Not because I had to replay it multiple times just to get a different type of ending, but mainly because of all the hours spent farming to unlock all the skills. Now, this combat system is even better somehow. You have 5 levels with 1 boss at the end of each. The aging mechanic is genius, but I don't want to say much more about this game. I feel like more people have to play it themselves to truly understand why I think this is the real 2022 game of the year and not some open world with copy-paste content. I played Cuphead so many years ago, but I haven't touched it since then. This time around I also bought the DLC, which I also played but never finished. All I have to say, this game is so addictive. I had to get all the achievements and the S tier on every boss. Remember how I said that Sifu was the real 2022 Game of the Year? Funny enough, this game also came out that same year. I have Neon White higher in the list for my personal preference though. What's even funnier is that both of these games are indies and none of them won the Best Indie Game award. What game won, did you ask? Fucking Stray, ladies and gentlemen. A stupid point and click with a cat which also got nominated for Game of the Year. That's insane, but I digress. Neon White is another addictive video game. A speedrun with levels you'll want to replay again and again to get a better score. It's a movement shooter basically, where you use cards for both shooting and movement like double jump or dashing. Apart from the 10 out of 10 gameplay and the insane level design, it has a cool soundtrack, great story, good dialogues, and interesting characters you actually care about. I 100%ed this game after 19 hours, but got all the achievements after 38. This is definitely one of the hardest games to get all the achievements for. This game is huge. It's beautiful, it's hard, but it's incomplete, because Team Cherry actually announced the DLC. Silksong was my most anticipated game ever, and it delivered. I don't think it's perfect, and I also don't think it's better than the #1 spot. Still, this is my 2025 Game of the Year. It feels like cheating putting two Hollow Knight games up on top, but they really are the very best. I knew that Silksong would come out in 2025, so I decided to replay and complete Hollow Knight with all the achievements, which was also one of the hardest tasks of the year. The main reason I prefer this over Silksong is the combat. Honestly, I'm not a fan of the diagonal, down hit, and all the styles and gadgets available. It's still great, but I prefer the much simpler fighting style of the Knight. I don't think that Silksong will top this game even with the upcoming DLCs, but I truly think that this is just a perfect game. It's the only real 10 out of 10 game for me. I didn't know if I wanted to include this game at all in the list since it's the only online game I played, but it's also the game I played the most in 2025. I don't care what y'all think about the finals, but it's easily the best online shooter of all time. Yes, of all time. But Argon, what do you think about Arc Raiders? First of all, it's great, but it's really not my type of game. And I also don't want to waste more of my time on online games like I already do on the finals.